Mike Buckley, after becoming world champion sailor two times with the United States SailGP, welcome to the Sport Businessman Podcast. It is an honor to be hosting you today.
Thank you for having me, Edoardo. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Could you please introduce us to how you started as an athlete? Today, you're a strategist of the United States SailGP team, as well as owner. Where did your background into this sport begin, and how did it lead to your career, leading it as a co-owner today?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky to be surrounded by some really great sailors and influential people over the last 20 years, and kind of has spent the last 20 years traveling around the world competing in different on different circuits as a professional sailor. And I used to find myself kind of coming home from competitions, whether it be Sunday night or Monday morning, and whether I did well or I did poorly, I was kind of, bored, and would took me years to realize that, and finally I decided I was going to do something about it. And so I started thinking about how I could commercialize myself and some of the different teams I was on, or our sport in general. And spent kind of, I don't know, 10 years kind of spinning my wheels through that. And as I was doing that, this thing called SailGP had been created by Larry Ellison and Russell Coutts. And it was this amazing platform. I mean, I think it took a few years for people to really recognize what they were actually trying to build. Yeah, and so I decided I was actually going to do something about it, and yeah, went out myself and a guy named Ryan McKillen. Ryan was the third employee at Uber. We purchased the U.S. team from Larry in the end of 2023 with an awesome group of investors. Avenue Capital is our lead investor, which is Mark Lazzary's private equity firm. Mark won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks, and we have a great group of celebrity investors from Issa Rae and DeAndre Hopkins, Gary Vaynerchuk, and a bunch of others, along with the Tisch family through their sports fund called Next Three, which they own the New York Giants. So some really, really incredible people in our group. And there's also some great momentum in the league and with other teams over the last few months.
Incredible. And when you were an athlete and you were looking around about how to commercialize yourself, get into ownership, in Italy, sailing is a very big sport. In Europe, also, it's very, very, very followed. But when you were an athlete, how were people engaging with the sport in terms of fans? How did you see attention being received into the sport and as an athlete yourself?
Yeah, different parts of the world, sailing is regarded, as a, mainstream sport. When you go to New Zealand, people want your photo at dinner. In New York City where I live, that's not the case. But as I started to do some research on, kind of the history of commercialization in our sport, at least in the United States, I, stumbled across uh, Dennis Conner and what he did in the America's Cup in the 80s and 90s. And I quickly realized, like, wow, he was on the cover of Time magazine twice. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, I believe, five times. Back in the heyday of Sports Illustrated, when you had Jordan and Muhammad Ali and major, major mainstream, all-time greats, which he was and is, and kind of came back to the fact that he captivated a fan base. His personality, his drive, the way he dressed, the way he carried himself, the people he surrounded himself by. And he was kind of an inspiration to do this. And then I kind of looked at what, sailing in some of these other countries. You mentioned Italy, right? Italy, sailing is a big deal there. The America's Cup is a big deal. Sailing athletes are a big deal. New Zealand, Australia, and I think for whatever reason in the US, we kind of just yeah, lost our way with it a little bit. And I think SailGP is an answer for that and a platform for people like me to, yeah, bring new people into our sport.
So the fan demographics for sailing say that fans are about 35 years old. The average fan is about 35 years old. And so I care to ask you, how does your fan look like? Who is your fan? How are you looking to engage today's generation, new generation of sports fans and how is the ecosystem preparing to engage new fans for the league and also for the USA SailGP team to engage and bring on new fans and attention.
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question because our audience is global and in different markets the demographics are very different. In the United States, we have, we kind of skewed towards an affluent fan base. Uh, what's really exciting about our fan base is over 90% of our fan base are not sailors, they're just racing fans. And so, that's a really exciting statistic. I think, when Larry and Russell were, kind of all in on developing a TV product that the modern day sports fan and sports consumer could kind of, tune into quickly, right? There's, young people these days, they don't have the attention span to sit down and watch a 4 hours worth of sports, right? They want quick hits, quick exciting hits, and that's what SailGP has created. Our game day experience, we go to absolutely beautiful destinations. I'm here in Geneva, Switzerland. I just flew over the lake on my way in. Absolutely stunning backdrop for our race coming up. We just raced in Saint-Tropez, which doesn't get much better than that. New York City, all over the Middle East, Australia, New Zealand. So, I think going to iconic destinations and having a memorable game day experience for our fans is certainly part of the draw. And I think lastly, and something that we haven't really executed on yet, but is coming out with our own version of, a Drive to Survive and what that did for Formula One. We've just come out with a three-part series the league has called Uncharted, and it's kind of a glimpse into the creation of SailGP, how it was started and where we are today. But I think, if we're going to take that next step, we need to introduce, the fan or the person who's never even heard of any of us, into the personalities of the key people within the SailGP ecosystem, right? The funny person, the angry person, the emotional person, the boring person, whatever, but make a thing out of it and give give fans the opportunity to engage with new people.
And Mike, I've seen videos of cap sizes online and which are very dramatic to view. And for example, the MLS has adopted cameras on the referees for new fan engagement to show free kicks from their superstar players. The NHL cameras that show the fights in game. How is USA SailGP team and SailGP um, building the new fan engagement product to engage today's fans that want to see this type of content.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those capsize videos that you're talking about, but I'm kidding. I was in a couple of them, unfortunately. But yeah, the league does an awesome job with their camera video work. There's we have cameras mounted all over our boats, that are constantly putting out really great content. I know they're always experimenting with more. Our partners at T-Mobile, have a 5G camera where we can get, video feeds in real time. Yeah, there's a lot of innovation that goes into it, but sometimes it's just the simple iPhone selfie when you're about to start ripping around before you put your phones away that is the thing that ends up, going viral. So it's yeah, there's no perfect answer to that, but the goal with SailGP is to bring the fans closer to the racing and the racing closer to the fans, and having innovation behind how we do that with camera work is certainly high on the list.
And we just discussed the commercial asset of fan engagement that you're building. What are other assets that make the USA in specific a commercial product that can be invested in and that's attractive to the owners to the ownership which you mentioned?
Yeah, well, the first thing is that all the teams have a $10 million spend cap. So that was something that Ryan and I liked right from the start is you knew what your worst case scenario is for how much it's going to cost to run our business each year. And, we felt like getting our commercial revenue over $10 million so that there's free cash flow wouldn't be, that far into the future. And that makes it a very, very unique asset in sports because most professional sports teams are losing money, but their valuations are climbing. So we thought if we could, generate cash, that would, exponentially increase our value over time. And so, there's the basic sponsorship around signage and storytelling and appearances and experiences and hospitality. And then there's media rights and digital assets. So one of the things that we were the first team to do on the grid was we partnered with a company called Fan Capital. They do all of the fan engagement for Williams F1 over the last couple of years. So they've built us an app and a website, and we're collecting first party data, and we do giveaways. And this past weekend in Saint Tropez, a young guy and had won one of our sweepstakes, and we flew him to Saint Tropez for the weekend. He got to stay in the team hotel. He got to meet the team. He got to come to a team meeting, and you offer people really, really unique experiences, and all of a sudden it starts to generate a buzz, and more people sign up for your app, and more people in your app, the more opportunity you have to market direct to your consumer, your fan base, and that's pretty interesting, for sponsors.
Um, that's the pitch of USA SailGP. I, I find it very, very, very interesting. And are you also and what's the strategy, for example, for expanding fan the fan demographic to other countries? For example, like in football or in American football, is also in soccer. There might be like a player transfer and from a country that league has never received, and then there's suddenly new fans in that country for that team. Or in American football, there is teams that go play abroad in other countries. And how is the USA Sail GP team activating new fans consistently?
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the things we really liked about the investment is you can only have one team per country. So, buying the US team and the US market was something that we were really excited about. America is the largest brand in the world. And so when you go into some of these other markets, we have 14 races around the world in foreign markets. When you go in, the US team is hopefully going to be the second favorite team at an away race, which is really exciting. And again, we're in these global, uh, very diverse cities where there's people from all walks of life, and great opportunity to attract new fans. We think of ourselves as a global brand. We're obviously a national team, but we don't think of it as just marketing at home in the U.S. So we're always doing exciting things around the world and in all the markets we're racing in.
And also, Mike, from from your you're not just any owner, you've been a world champion. So can you tell us also what makes a world champion winning team culture for building this sustainable investment and project, and what makes a world championship winning team, and how do you build it?
Yeah, I mean, I think winning at the highest levels of anything, whether it be sport or business or life, it really starts with surrounding yourself with really smart people that are extremely motivated, and it starts with being more prepared than the competition. And when you're more prepared than the competition, you have a real confidence. When you're underprepared and you're confident, you probably just have an ego. And there's not a huge difference between the two. But it's the difference between winning, at the highest level and losing. And for us as one of the newer teams on the grid, it's certainly been a humbling experience to come in. And unfortunately, the nature of SailGP is you don't get access to our F50s, which are the boats we race, except for on race weekends. So after a race, you don't get to go home and lick your wounds and practice more, because the boats are on a truck or a ship or a plane or whatever it may be to the next race. You get to look at the data, you can do some simulation, you can watch game tape, footage, but you don't actually get to go out there and do it. Whereas, in the NBA, maybe, you're having an off shooting night. A lot of the best players, they leave the game and they go back to the gym and they shoot, you know, deep into the night and practice over and over again, so that when they show up to the game the next day or, 2 days later, they have that they've ticked off the preparation box, and their confidence is just there. And so that's something that we're still learning, and constantly trying to figure out our way through. It's not easy. There's no obvious path to the top. So we've got to be innovative. Simulation is certainly the most obvious. And as we kind of continue to build the simulation platform, that will allow teams to leave race weeks and even at night during a race weekend, and practice. But right now it's tricky. So there's no perfect answer, but you know preparation and hard work, out hustling the competition. That's those are kind of the easy ones to try to tick off.
And is the simulation exist? Is it only available for the athletes who need to practice, or is it also available for someone who's looking to get engaged with the sport and find a way to have fun at the same time? Or is it just for practice purposes?
Well, I mean, there's definitely all different levels of simulation that exist right now in sailing, and some of it is gaming and just kind
Yeah.
of fun and cool factor. The stuff that I'm talking about is, how do you go home and have your brain think you're out in an F50 racing around Geneva before the race this weekend, and that type of simulation is very, very, very sophisticated. And our boats are as complex of a machine that exists. And so yeah, it's our simulation isn't where it needs to be kind of 100% real. It's getting closer, and it will be there probably sometime later this year. And when that happens, you'll start to see the competition all really kind of come to the middle. Right now, there's some really excellent teams in the league, and there's some teams that aren't so great. And when you can all leave and go and train and feel like you're actually out there racing, I think that's when we'll see all the teams, rise to the top, and the racing will get closer and closer.
Before we dive into the last question, to educate investors on the SailGP opportunity and specifically SailGP USA, what did your week look like as a world champion? And what does it look like today as a strategist and co-owner of a SailGP USA team?
Yeah, I mean, I think racing sailboats and running a business are very similar. The challenges are almost identical. When you're out on the water, you're racing against Mother Nature and a bunch of other teams. You can't control Mother Nature and you can't control the other teams. All you can do is control how you react to Mother Nature and how you kind of handle the other teams in the moment. And it's you're making split second decisions, and some of them are right and some of them are wrong. The great teams, when they make a bad decision, they then capitalize on the next decision. And the average teams are the ones that sometimes make two bad decisions in a row. And I think it's the same in business. When you have a startup, which is essentially what SailGP and what our team, we're all startups at the moment. We're growing in maturity, but we're not quite there yet. You have crazy things that happen every day in your business, right? And you've got to make, split second decisions. And the goal is not to never make a mistake. The goal is just not to make two in a row, especially the same mistake multiple times. And so, yeah, I view the two as, one and the same. My days are long on site. This past week in Saint-Tropez, there was, you're up early, team meetings in the morning, and you're down, at our base, then out on the water or in the coach's booth. Afterwards, you're entertaining guests, and then, speaking engagements at night, things like that. So yeah, they're long days, 18, 20-hour days, but they go by really, really quick. And what I always say, when you love what you do, it's easy. It's not actually easy, but it feels easy because you love it and you're all in on it.
Incredible. And lastly, Mike, for our last question for the audience, what do you suggest an investor who's looking to deploy capital in SailGP because they find it interesting, they find the emerging sports league opportunity an opportunity they want to engage in? What do you suggest they consume to understand the business and the ecosystem? What do you suggest to consume?
Well, there's been some great press the last 1 to 2 years on the growth of SailGP. And I think my advice would be check out the TV product. In the US, it's on CBS. We're in over 200 markets around the world, so it's quite easy to tune in and watch a race, or come check it out. I think that most people have no idea the scale of SailGP until they show up and they see these enormous machines. They see them going 60, 65 miles an hour, giant grandstands, and huge hospitality pavilions. I just think I think it's just so new that it's hard to explain. Even as a sailor, when I first showed up, I was blown away by the scale of everything. And yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking to make an investment in an emerging sport, there's a number of teams on the grid that, to take a look at. And yeah, I think, as Larry Ellison says in his opening line of the Uncharted docuseries, his goal is to make SailGP the best sporting league on the planet. Uh, Not the best in sailing, not the 50th best in all sports, the best, period, the end. And someone like that, when they set their mind to something, pretty hard to bet against a guy like that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mike, for your incredible advice, insights, educational advice to investors, the audience of today's podcast. It was an honor to host you on the Sport Businessman podcast.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
having me. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Ciao, Mike.